So yeah, we're going to try and get a bass line going now. Won't worry too much about the arrangement yet either. We'll just try and get some nice sounds down and a rough melody and kind of bass pattern going, and then we'll try and take it a bit further. As the track progresses really. So yeah, first things first, we're just loading a serum patch, and I think it's a worthwhile point to make from the start is that typically in a lot of our tracks we don't actually go too heavy on crazy sound design with basses. Tend to have pretty straightforward low ends and stuff, and have interaction between bass and synths and get kind of excitement that way instead of going really heavy on specific sub design or really aggressive mid basses. But yeah, saying that, we'll run through a couple of ideas here of some nice tones that nice bass sounds that have nice overtones to them and can still sit really nice in a mix and a track. So yeah, we're going to sort of go through one of those now, and we'll see what we get. So yeah, first things first, we'll turn on the sub oscillator and send it directly out, pitch down a couple of octaves, and we're going to load the digital serum waveform. We'll go for FM Freak, sort of have it around here somewhere to start with. And what we're going to do first of all is get this sub oscillator moving. So if I just play that as it is now, check the levels. It's pretty straightforward, but with our basses we don't use just straight subtones too often. If we do, we'll have sort of nice envelopes on them and have them moving around nicely. But with this one, we're going to just map an LFO to the level. We'll change the rate to 3. We'll stick it as a trigger, and then we'll bring the rate down slightly. We'll map the note to the LFO rate. So the higher note you play, the faster the LFO will move. So this kind of emulates your classic detuned sub jungle sound you get going. It's a nice way of doing it instead of just detuning two sub oscillators. You have a bit more control this way, and then we'll map that to our sub oscillator level. So that's already moving quite nicely. The lower you drag down a level and the higher you increase the LFO modulation, it's going to sound more pronounced. That's potentially too wobbly, for want of a better word, for this track. But yeah, let's bring it to around here, maybe slow the rate down slightly. So that's a low G, so it's probably the lowest note this bass line is going to go. Maybe increase the effect that the note has on the rate, so you get some more movement across the octave ranges. So that sounds nice, but maybe we'll bring the rate down slightly. So that's quite nice, quite a lot of nice movement there, and then that's just going to go directly out of serum and won't be affected by any of the other FX process we do internally on our oscillator A here. So yeah, let's turn on oscillator A. We'll also make this mono, and straight away we'll bring the random phase amount down to 0. So this is going to start at the same point of the waveform each time you trigger the note. If you don't, then your sound might, for example, start here, and it's going to, over time, it's going to sound a bit confusing to the ear. Sometimes this is great if you're going for real soulful kind of synths and you want a lot of movement. But yeah, for now, you want that random right down to 0. So with that playing now, sounds a bit whack. So we'll pitch that down 2 octaves. And I think we'll use this sound as a kind of a nice attack to the bass sound instead of being, pronounced through the whole thing. So similarly, what we're going to do is map our LFO here to the level. We'll bring it down slightly, probably bring the actual LFO level up overall, use as more of an envelope to be fair, and have that coming in as a kind of curved ramp, and we'll turn the rate right down here. Sorry, turn that on the trigger on as well. So you might want that coming in a bit sooner. what we can also do is map the same LFO to the wavetable position. It takes a bit of tweaking. That sounds quite nice. So you get some nice overtones coming through there, and I think that's a pretty nice bass sound. But let's go and load up some effects here, and just to obviously reference back slightly there, this is just going to affect our oscillator A here, so that sub's still going to come out nice and clean. So start off with some distortion. I'm just going to mess about with this here and see what comes out. And we can map the same LFO with the same movement to various, effects here as well. So that sounds pretty nice. We'll just dial in some chorus, a bit more space there, and then maybe I would definitely EQ out the low end so you don't get any clash with our sub oscillator. And here you can really mess around with the kind of frequencies you're bringing out in the sound. You have to be quite careful though, because you end up introducing some crazy resonances. So it's quite nice just to find a nice tone that fits, and then dial the gain and Q back slightly. And then for sort of variation later on, you can map all sorts of stuff to these parameters as well. So I think that's nice. Obviously this is a deep liquid tune. If you want to make jump up, you can start getting a bit wild with these parameters, but it doesn't sound too bad, to be fair. Maybe it's a tiny bit of reverb, just to give it some space. And then finally we'll just put a filter on all of that. Let's go for a low pass filter. And again, we'll get that same LFO going. So that initial hit comes in. If you listen to the bass sound closely, that initial hit comes in, fades away, and then you can hear the sub oscillator coming back. Maybe you want to bring this down slightly, to be fair. And the level of our sub oscillator up a little bit. So that's not a bad starting point, I don't think. So what I'll just try and do now is get some, melodies down with this bass line. So let's run what we've got so far. So before we get too deep into the actual melodies, I'm just gonna take out some of these kind of higher tones from these sounds here, just so it doesn't get too in the way of what we're doing. So if I just regroup these, actually we'll just mute this one here. I think, I'm trying to think what each one is. Yeah, so we can probably take these out of the initial drop just for now. So we just got some more space to play with, really, in terms of getting the bass sound how we want it to sound. So yeah, let's run that again. So let's load up a MIDI clip. I'm pretty sure the key we're in here is G, so our G is going to be the kind of root note, if you like. So potentially we'll start with a G. Let's just. So yeah, what I'd usually do at this point is start messing around on a MIDI keyboard and finding some melodies, but without you seeing, what I'm playing in terms of on the keyboard, it might sound a bit weird. So I'm just going to try and draw in a melody and see what's going down. So. Extend this mini clip slightly. So I don't think we want too wild a melody on this sub. Just want a nice rolling sub really, and then maybe bring in some more bass elements to support it. So we'll just keep this pretty simple for now. So, I mean, that was pure fluke that we've got there already. That wasn't pre-planned, I promise. And it sounds not too bad. Obviously, this low note here is a low, what's that, a low D sharp. So you probably really can't go too much lower than that. But because you've got some nice tones on that bass, it might still cut through the mix. So just play that solo. Sounds quite nice. What I'll do is just pitch that up. I find this quite a useful way just to check you've actually got the right notes in. Sometimes it can be quite hard to tell the subs you're playing are the right key. So I'm just going to pitch it up and play it in context and see what it sounds like. I'll mute the drums as well. It sounds good maybe until the end of the phrase. We get something like some pitch bend at the end there maybe. Didn't mean to do that. So that's not sounding too bad. I think we'll introduce a bit of movement into some of these MIDI notes as well, maybe with some automation of the pitch. So you can just automate pitch bend in Ableton pretty easily if you go into envelopes. This is Ableton 11.1 envelopes, MIDI control, pitch bend. You can introduce some nice kind of pitch bend in some of your notes. So listen to what this sounds like. So let's run that with the drums and see what it's sounding like initially. So that sounds pretty good as a starting point. I mean, this might not be the final bass line, we might bring more elements in, but as a kind of foundation for the general feel of the track, I don't think it's too bad a place to start. What we'll do now though is just a little bit of post-processing. With subs, it's quite nice to get a bit of saturation going with them, again, just to bring out some more of those overtones. And what I'm hearing as well is a slight click in the sound, so we'll just reduce the attack slightly. It's a bit better. and then we'll just go in a bit of EQ, and with subs and stuff, to be fair, every track, we probably said it already, it's really important just to roll off that anything below 30 hertz really, because it's just unnecessary, and there's quite a lot of content down there in sounds usually. So yeah, that's sounding pretty nice. It sounds a bit static though, so maybe what we can do is just duplicate this. So this is going to be called our sub, and with this sound here, what we can maybe do is we'll turn off the sub oscillator, and maybe get some more nice content from a lead, kind of bass lead patch derived from our sub that's got a bit more going on, a bit more high end, a bit more grip maybe. We don't want that all the time. I'm thinking a good place might be this third bar and fourth bar of our bass phrase. So what we'll just do is we'll just take this out for now. Let's get this looping up. So maybe where that oscillator A fades out, we can bring it back in again. And it's got even more heavy on some of the processing as well. Maybe bring some noise in. White noise, not AC hum. To be fair, that might be being affected by the filter down the bottom here at the moment. Yeah, let's mute the noise for now. Bring that in later with shaper box or something. We can maybe bring a separate LFO on this filter just to have it open up over time. Play that in context quickly, see what's going on. So it might be the wrong note, to be fair. Let's have a listen again. This is where it all becomes trial and error. It takes a bit of time to figure everything out. So that's got a kind of 7th frequency in it, and it sounds quite nice actually. There's a very resonant peak in there though, so maybe we can adjust some of the... Sweet, so maybe with that now we can apply some further distortion and processing outside of Serum. So what we'll do first of all though is just automate the gain for this so it comes in a bit later, so it doesn't interfere with that current subnote that we've got going on. Sweet, so that doesn't sound too bad, but I think we can get a bit more creative with what's going on here. So let's have a look. We'll open up the filter with the same kind of pattern maybe. Let's mess with this saturator. So this Ableton saturator is actually sick. You can get some really nice sounds out of it. It's easily tweakable. And then what I like to do with just basic sounds like this is chuck this hybrid reverb on from Ableton, stick it on the convolution algorithm, and just mess around with some of this stuff. So the early reflections is usually quite nice. You can get some interesting sounds out of this. And that takes it from being quite an aggressive digital sound into a more kind of maybe appealing sound for this style of music. Doesn't sound too clashy, if that makes sense. We'll just dial that back a bit. Sounds a bit too aggressive. And again, we'll just filter at the end of the chain as well. So that sounded pretty nice. What I just did there was take this final note of the phrase, duplicated it across to this patch. It's obviously an octave higher. So yeah, just again automated some filter action on that one. We're not sounding too bad here. Again, as this progresses, you might want to kind of resample some of this stuff and take it a bit further, but don't want to get too kind of ingrained in getting this bass line nailed on first time round, so it might take a few goes to get this right. So let's just run it, see what it sounds like for now. Sweet, so what I'll probably do now, I'll just name this as bass lead, do the job for now. What we like to do with our kind of bass lines as well is to not just have one sub carrying the tune, so we'll maybe introduce like an 808 element or a kind of different Reese style sound into that bass line. So I'm just going to load up our just classic 808. We use this quite a lot, and we'll make sure his presets available to you guys, but it's pretty punchy 808. Does the job and cuts through the mix nicely. I won't go through all the sound design just for the sake of time and stuff, but yeah, we'll chuck the preset in the project. So yeah, that's all available. So yeah, what I think a good place for 808 might be the end of this phrase here, where we kind of open up our bass lead. So right about there, I think that might sound pretty good. So we'll just literally cut that MIDI out there, Add some new MIDI in here. Now it was a low D sharp, wasn't it? So we can just mess around with some patterns here. So that's, I mean, it's not perfect, but it might do for now. Again, just messing about with some MIDI notes, seeing what fits. So let's run that as a phrase and see where we're at. Maybe with this lead here, we can have it sort of being automated along with the 808s, just as a bit of a, yeah, togetherness maybe. Let's see what that sounds like. So I think that sounds pretty nice and groovy actually. Let's play it in context again, just to make sure we're on the right track. Sweet. So yeah, quite liking that actually. I think there's ways it could become better, but we'll work on that as the tune progresses really. So yeah, I think that's a good place to stop that there for now. Actually, I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll just do a final bit of processing on this group. We'll just maybe saturate the whole group a little bit. Let's watch our levels. And yep, we can maybe get a bit of sidechain compression going with the kick, just a little bit, just for kind of, I guess safety is the right word over anything else. I find it quite helpful as well with bass, just to mute the drums sometimes and listen to it in that context. Sweet, so let's give that a run from just a 16 before the drop. Nice, yeah, it's not a bad starting point. Obviously, we've just kind of taken each section on its own rights for now, and I think what we'll do now is take the whole track together as a whole and look at making it a song instead of a collection of, you know, drum and bass elements, if you like. So yeah,